Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Today's episode is from Season 2, Episode 3, School Reunion. Did you ever think that your teachers slept at school? Well, they do. Don't eat the chips. School Reunion is written by Toby Whithouse, directed by James Hawes, and it first aired on the 29th of April, 2006, and it garnered 8.3 million viewers for its ratings. Today we welcome back Kelsey.
Yeah, this is my first David Tennant episode. I'm very excited
Hooray.
to dive in.
A good one.
Yeah,
And the way they filmed this was his first too.
oh,
really?
awesome.
Yeah.
Good tie-in, good connection. All right.
All right, let's go around. Who else is here?
Hi, this is Auburn.
Hi, this is Brian.
This is Frank.
I'm Josh.
Arlene.
And this is Eugene.
We have a full house.
Hooray. The headmaster of a high school comes across a student with a headache waiting in front of his office. Finding out she has no family, he invites her into his office and cue the screams. The doctor is undercover as John Smith, the new physics teacher at this school, and is testing
Physics.
and he's
Right.
testing his
Are you getting
students.
that down?
One student in particular, Milo, is wise beyond his years. In fact, wise beyond Einstein. Meanwhile, Rose is undercover as a lunch lady.
I like that they murder a child right off. I mean, set the tone.
I like that Rose is a lunch lady.
Yeah.
Like,
All the comedy in the very beginning, it's perfect. It's like perfect 10th Doctor.
Child murder. It's hysterical. But I do like the fact that I think they're kind of playing off a child's perception of their school.
Oh, like that's
school
what
is
happens. when you-
evil and, bad things are going to, because teachers are mean and
Mhm.
cruel. And so I like it.
And who's our headmaster?
Giles.
From Buffy.
Or the Taster's Choice guy if you're old enough.
Those were
Oh, really?
great commercials.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, we're really old, Frank.
I remember the commercials.
Yeah, in England, they had the Nescafe commercials that they started. There was a couple that met and had a whole series of commercials about the relationship, and everybody got glued to this. It was a soap opera. It was a moonlighting kind of thing. It was just the regular commercial.
I was actually
Oh.
in London and Ireland while they were on, and my aunt was obsessed with them. And I remember I got hooked on them too, going, wait, he knocks on her door and another man answers the door. What happens next? And then you waited a week and you got another commercial, and it always ended with a cup of coffee.
and this was starring our headmaster?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
This was
Now
that I know
Anthony
he's-
Stewart Head.
Yeah, now that I know he's Giles from Buffy, I'm not so scared of him anymore.
Aw.
He's not as creepy.
This is
a little
Giles'
less
evil
creepy.
cousin.
Yeah.
Look like.
Yeah.
But I like the camera angles that they start right off the bat.
Oh yeah.
With these almost, for us, the Batman,
1966.
60s lair, so everything's just off kilter, everything's from a different odd angle. And they run that through the entire episode, which just says this is going to be fun, scary. It's not terrible scary. It's not like some of the other ones we've had, but this is that fun, hide behind the couch, keep looking scary, okay for kids.
Yeah. And I like the quick cuts that they're doing in this episode. Like I can see the editor's hand in this more so. It's like, oh, this is what the editor was bringing to this episode is the quick cuts
Right.
to the stairway. We go from the headmasters right to the stairway almost
Mm-hmm.
quicker than normal. And I like it.
Yeah, and all the compositions are great too. Like everything is, it doesn't feel unnatural the way things are composed, but there's always something in the foreground, the middle ground, the background, and then slightly jumping ahead, but that scene where they're talking to each other across the pool, like
Right.
everything is
Mhm.
composed very specifically. Nothing felt off the cuff, and it really adds to the mood of whatever scene it was in.
Even, later on, there's a shot with Mr. Finch's just his feet. And how he
Right.
turns sideways. And it's just done
Yeah,
well.
he
It's
uses
just
the
all
balls
those
of
little
his
details
feet.
to have fun with this episode.
So Mickey had called Rose and, the doctor, to investigate the school. They had been in the news recently due to incredible and rapid improvements, which Mickey doesn't think is right. Also, there have been reports of UFOs in the area, but his research is being blocked by Torchwood. Around the same time as the UFOs, half the staff of the school were replaced by the new headmaster.
So that's our first mention of Torchwood. This
The whole
episode.
season?
This episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the werewolf was
The
still
other one.
was the 10th Doctor as well,
Mhm.
right? Oh, yeah.
Yes. And I like the fact that Mickey is being like active. He's doing something, and then he brings the doctor and Rose, like, "Hey, check this out. There could be something here."
Like, this is important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's cool.
Well, it just shows that once have you have contact with the doctor, you start to look at things
Mhm.
differently.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, you can't just go back to normalcy.
Even Mickey.
Yeah. At lunch, Rose and the doctor talk about how well behaved the kids are, and at least one has knowledge of physics beyond any human. A teacher shows up and takes some students from the cafeteria for extra classes. He leaves Kenny behind, a student who brings his lunch from home. He brings them to a computer room where the students put on headphones and begin to work furiously at their computers, apparently on the same problem. Rose, now cleaning pots in the kitchen, watches as some staff in protective suits move 2 large barrels of cooking oil. The second barrel tips over and spills onto one of the staff, who begins to scream. The others rush her away, and they tell Rose nothing is wrong.
She always does that.
Because it sounded like that lunch person burst into flames.
Yeah.
You just hear this.
Yeah. And the
She always does
smoke.
that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
smoke
The
comes
smoke,
billowing
yeah.
out, yeah.
And then, it's fine. Don't call the ambulance.
And also when Rose and the doctor they're discussing the food, and there's something weird about the chips, and Rose says she loves the chips. Do you also notice, we just noticed recently, all around the cafeteria are posters that say, "Eat more chips."
Mhm.
Oh,
Eat more
no,
chips.
yeah.
Eat more chips. They're everywhere.
And then the doctor mentions, when he's talking about the kids, Asbos.
Asbos, yeah.
You got that one?
Yeah,
Frank?
because everybody's so well behaved in this school. He was
Yeah.
expecting more delinquent type students.
Oh, is that vernacular?
For Americans, no, it's abbreviation that stands for Antisocial Behavior Order. And it's a court order which can be obtained by local authorities to restrict the behavior of a person likely to cause harm to the public or distress to the public. Rowdy and disruptive.
So, like most children.
Yes.
Today, most children today, yes.
The headmaster, Mr. Finch, is showing a reporter, Sarah Jane Smith, around the school. She's writing a story about how he has transformed the school in just 3 months. He tells her that mandatory school meals help the children concentrate. He takes her to the teacher's lounge, where she meets the new teacher, John Smith. The doctor instantly recognizes his Sarah Jane, a previous companion. She doesn't recognize him since he has regenerated a few times since she last saw him. She asks him if he thinks it's strange that so many students have been ill recently. Sarah Jane hints that she is really investigating the strange occurrences.
I really like the doctor's reaction to seeing her.
Yeah, it's
Again.
really cool.
It was our reaction for those who like the
Who know.
classic Who.
Mhm. I mean, I remember seeing this episode a while ago and not knowing that history, but I gathered what was happening, and
The joy on the doctor's
yeah,
face.
and he really sells it. He really,
Oh, yeah.
you really feel.
Well, and she's really good in that scene too.
Yeah, but when he first sees her
Yeah.
and how taken he is or flustered,
But it really was all of us. It's Sarah Jane. You know, it's great.
And part of me thinks that that's not even acting. That's just David Tennant's reaction to seeing
Yeah.
this companion that he kind of grew up with,
Yeah.
maybe.
Oh, yeah. He
Yeah.
loved Sarah Jane back in the day.
And I think it's cool that Sarah Jane as a character is still consistent, that she's still investigating stuff. And, like Mickey's doing stuff. And it just kind of coincides that they're both investigating the same thing.
and they're both Smiths.
Yeah, that too. There's also a mention how the doctor got this staff position. He gave the former teacher a lottery ticket, if you catch that.
Oh, he gave him the lottery.
Slipped it through his
Oh,
door.
oh, that makes sense. I thought it for some reason. I thought it was the bad guys did it to get rid of him. But why would they do that? They would
Because
He needed a position
Yeah.
to get there. So
Yeah, 'cause that person
I know,
never
it was
played the
a- and
it's
lottery.
not explicit, but it's definitely
right. Because
hinted
then
at.
I was also like, well, how did they get him winning lottery? How did they know how to win the lottery? And then I just didn't think about it because I was continued watching. But no, that's totally it.
And it's also not the last time he'll do
That's
that.
not the last time he's
Oh,
done that.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, what do you know? I missed it.
Also, just going back a little bit, the computer scene, couple little things. One tiny little thing. I love that the students are working at computers that are all black. The monitors are black. The headphones are black. It's very Black Ops
Mhm.
kind of a look to it. And then the music in that scene is just amazing. I just love the music. It's so relentless and yet
Appropriate.
appropriate. Yeah, it's not. It's something you could listen to, but it's very, very fast, very, very energetic.
Yes, because they're doing something very quick and
Yeah.
fast. But what you said about the music reminded me of the music cue when Sarah Jane comes on board and the doctor recognizes her. At the end of that cue is sort of like a clarinet solo sort of thing.
Mhm.
And to me, that's saying this is an older character because you don't really hear clarinets by themselves in a musical cue unless if it's a retro thing.
That's interesting. I mean, I didn't get the music,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes sense because in my notes I wrote down we see the joy of the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
but then we also see the nostalgia of Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
So because she's saying, "Oh, John Smith, I had a friend," and
And
you
then
can see,
yeah.
and you can see the look on her face where she's thinking back to the doctor.
Yeah.
Very, very nostalgic,
And
which is also a viewer
Yeah. Yeah.
who knows Sarah Jane is doing that at the exact same time.
And I think the quote there, he says John Smith, and he says something like, "Oh, that's a common name," and then she replies with, "He was a very uncommon man."
Yeah.
And that was cool.
Yeah.
And she traveled with the third and fourth Doctor. She went through the regeneration.
Yeah,
And
just for those of you who don't know.
Okay.
in this, there's a flashback for when she first showed up with the third Doctor. She was a reporter and trying to find out a story.
Yeah.
And so she snuck
She
onto
posed-
the unit base.
She posed as her aunt,
Right.
who was a
Who was invited to-
scientist.
who was a scientist, yeah.
We may visit that.
Maybe, possibly.
So her doing this is just the same way she got introduced to us.
She's
Okay.
also one of the longest
that.
running companions ever.
Oh.
She's certainly one of the most popular of any era.
On TV, she's been with 7 Doctors over the
Really?
whole course.
Over
of
the
show.
over the whole course
Her
of
And then
run.
through
everything.
other things, the prose and
Yeah.
comics and other stories and audio. She's been with, I think, 9 incarnations through
Yeah.
all the
Through everything.
parts. of it,
And
but the
she
TV
was also-
only 7.
Pretty much, not completely, but pretty much the first companion who was a woman who actually was active, who wasn't the damsel in distress. She was very much investigating everything, figuring out everything, got her into trouble, but still she wasn't the passive character that previous companions to the Doctor had been. And that even after when Sarah Jane left, they still had a lot of strong female companions, but every once in a while they would fall back into a weaker one. But she was the trailblazer for the
And if you haven't gotten it yet, it's Sarah Jane.
It's Sarah Jane. Sarah Jane is awesome.
So is she really like would you put Rose definitely in her camp? Like that Sarah Jane made the way for a Rose character, or
Oh yeah.
were there
I
other
think so.
characters between Sarah and
Oh yeah.
Rose?
There
where-
are definitely characters in between Rose and Sarah Jane who are very, there's Romana, there's Leela is
Leela.
Leela's very active.
But definitely you're right. They're trying to evoke the same feelings, I think, when they came up with the character of Rose. Like, we want to make her relatable, we want to make her proactive, and
Yeah.
not,
Yeah. I mean, Rose is definitely a lot younger
okay.
than Sarah Jane was when Sarah Jane. I mean,
I don't think
well,
so.
maybe not in age, but just in temperament of the time.
Yes.
This was she came on in the early 70s. And so she just seemed more mature,
Okay.
and she was
Well, you
very,
said she was a professional at the time. She wasn't still
yeah,
in
she was an
high
investigative
school.
reporter. Yeah. And, she snuck onto a military base and snuck into the TARDIS. So
well, that's pre 9/11, so.
way pre 9/11.
Okay, so that night, Sarah Jane breaks into the school. The Doctor, Rose, and Mickey also break in and begin searching for answers as to what is really going on. Rose heads off to get a sample of the cooking oil. Mickey leaves to investigate the math department.
Maths.
And the Doctor checks out Mr. Finch's office. Sarah Jane is turned away from the headmaster's office by the sound of wings and screeching. She hides in the janitor's closet where she finds the TARDIS. Shocked, she quickly leaves the closet, coming face to face with the Doctor. She knows it's him and says she thought he died. He says he lived, but everybody else died. They hear a scream and run to investigate, meeting Rose along the way.
One of the best scenes
Yeah, great.
Ever.
Yeah.
ever, any season, any year. I don't care. She goes into that closet. She sees the TARDIS, the way she reacts, the music that's playing,
The way it's lit.
lit,
And the way that he enters the
angles.
frame. It's
Yep. When she goes out, turns, the way he's standing, everything about this is perfect. You can criticize, but you can leave because it's perfect. And the way she plays it, where she's like, "It's you, it's really you," and he says, "Hello." It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, the lighting on that scene was amazing because it's very ethereal. It's definitely blacks out all the background and it just focuses
Yeah.
on the two characters. And she has the lighting above her head. It's just
And he's in a spotlight.
right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it really is a very intimate in the school, hallway is all taken away by blackness. It's just intimate between those two.
And even the TARDIS in the closet, the way it's like it's dark in there, and just the TARDIS lights are on.
Right.
It's very effective.
Well, it's because the lights are coming from it instead of
Right.
shining on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's what's cool about
It's
that
just
shot.
it's everything's an emblazoned image into your brain.
Yeah.
So
And it must be interesting to someone who doesn't know Sarah Jane. Like if you were just watching Doctor Who, I mean, I knew Sarah Jane, so I was waiting for that moment, and it didn't disappoint. But I wonder for someone who doesn't know Sarah Jane, I would think you would still get it.
I still got it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I originally saw it, what were we gonna say?
No, I was just saying that I didn't know Sarah Jane at all. And so at this point, I was mad at the doctor.
Ooh.
Like, as like, for her to be going through life, doing what she's still doing, and then confronting the doctor, she's like, I thought you were dead. Can you imagine that feeling? And that he was okay with leaving her with that feeling? I'm like, wow, you're an ass.
That goes to what Tennant said in the commentary of this episode, where he says that if you are a classic Who fan, you see it from the Doctor's point of view, going back to a really great old companion. And if you're a New Who viewer, you see it from Rose's point of view, from the companion's point of view. Of how
Yeah.
could you have left me, and why didn't you come back? Why didn't you say anything? So
Yeah, it was
And-
just like,
right,
and,
I mean,
and they
one-
haven't,
one-
we haven't gotten there yet, and I don't want to discuss it until we get there. But they do address
Mhm.
from the
Mhm.
doctor's point of view of what's going on in his head. So
Which also made me angrier.
We'll get
We'll get
when
there.
we
We'll
get, when we
get
get there. We'll
there.
talk.
We'll get there.
But I will say, in that moment, in that scene, he definitely played a lot of emotion. He did not seem callous at all.
no,
No,
he really
You
did.
felt the
he
weight.
he really cares.
This
for
is
Sarah
a great
Jane.
show for this Doctor, for Tennant to be as emotional and as funny, one of the widest ranges in this earlier episode.
Mm-hmm.
They also pack a lot of information in it where she's like, "You regenerated." So
Right,
she's a
yes,
familiar.
That's
Oh,
a
look,
good
this is
point.
someone who is familiar with
That's a good
regeneration.
point.
It's, she's surprised that it's the doctor, but she's not surprised that he doesn't look
Right.
the same,
Right.
But
she is surprised
because she has experienced it
Right.
firsthand.
I have a note on that regeneration we'll get to later, but I
have
like.
a-
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
When the doctor tells her that she's like, I thought you died, and he responds with, I lived, but everybody else died. I'm not sure if that's the right line.
That is.
Is he referring to the Time Lords, or is he referring to other assistants that came after Sarah Jane?
the
What
Time
does he
Lord.
mean?
The Time
okay.
Lords.
He left to go back to Gallifrey and left her on Earth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so,
Which
she knew he was going back there.
which has nothing to do with the Time War. Just we should.
right.
This
But
was
so-
in the
but-
fourth Doctor.
Mhm.
The thing about the classic show is a lot of times the companions left quickly. They just kind of wrote them out. And Sarah Jane leaves quickly. She goes through one whole serial episode. I think it's 3 hours long, with no hint that this is her last episode. And then they get back into the TARDIS. They have a little bit of a fight. She
That's
says,
a pretty big fight.
"Eh,"
For her.
but they always fought. And then she says, well, I'm going to pack and leave. And she walks out of the room. In the meantime, the doctor gets this, because the doctor's really not paying attention to her. He's busy fixing the TARDIS like he always did. And then she leaves the room, kind of like, I'm going to make a stink about this, but I don't really want to leave.
Mhm.
And he gets a call from Gallifrey in his head where he's like, I have to go to Gallifrey and Sarah Jane cannot come because humans are not allowed on Gallifrey. Sarah Jane comes back out all packed, expecting everything to be fine. And he says, you have to go. And so she's like, oh, this is really goodbye. And he says, yeah, this is really goodbye. I have to go. And then she leaves the TARDIS and that's it.
But it wasn't really like, I always thought she would think he would come back. It's like, oh, you
She
have
did.
to leave. It
Mhm.
wasn't a goodbye. It was,
Yeah,
oh,
they
you
really didn't.
are. I do
Yeah.
have to leave the TARDIS. You have to do this.
And does she also does say, is it dangerous where you're going? I think. And he's like,
I'd have to watch
"Eh."
it again. I
yeah.
don't recall.
But it is kind of like, he's off to do something big. And so she leaves and that's it, And so when she's, she said, I thought you died, it was because he never came back. And then he says everybody else died. He's bringing the Time War into it.
Just a little bit of both.
Yeah, I just want
Yeah.
to clarify because I wondered.
Of course.
Before you go on,
Yes.
Sarah Jane, awesome. But this has a little scene with Mickey and Rose, and just showing that Rose is the main companion. She's the one with the experience. She knows what she's doing. She's number one, and Mickey's the new guy, all green, trying to figure out where he's going, trying to go into school, and she goes,
He
no,
goes
the
the right-
direction.
yeah.
This is it,
Mhm.
and she's playing that up, liking being the number one in all this. So
Yeah.
when she runs into, they ran into the doctor with, who is this? She's no longer.
We haven't gotten there yet.
He just read, they ran into Rose. So it's like, that's when everything starts changing for her. But you can just see the scene before this. She likes being the one teaching Mickey.
But
Also, one quick little thing before we move on is when she says, I can't believe it's you. I can't believe it's you. I can't believe it's you. Scream, now I believe it's you. And they run.
and to me, that's like the perfect button to that scene.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
we're both activated. We're both back to where we were.
And now we're back.
yeah.
Yep.
And whose scream was it?
It was Mickey screaming when a bunch of vacuum packaged rats fell on top of him. Rose says schools don't dissect rats anymore and asks who Sarah Jane is. Sarah Jane says she used to travel with the doctor. The doctor wonders if the rats are food. As the team goes to investigate Mr. Finch's office, they find the teachers in their natural alien bat-like form, hanging by their feet from the ceiling. They all run outside of the school.
Well, that argument about that they don't dissect rats in school anymore, that's the beginning of the feud between
yeah.
Sarah and Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Do they really not dissect rats in school anymore?
I didn't do that.
No. Well, Rose's quip to Sarah Jane is they haven't dissected rats since the Dark Ages.
Right.
Yes.
And that's a kind of a throwback to Sarah Jane because her first adventure was in the Middle Ages.
Yeah. In the Dark Ages. Yeah. I caught that too. And also, I don't know if it's this scene or the next one, but Sarah Jane says, well, your assistants are getting younger.
Right.
I'm not his assistant. Oh, really? You
Good
go.
for you, Tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go, Tiger. It's just a little,
Jab.
a little jab at kind of both of them. I
Yeah.
mean, she's having fun with the doctor,
Mhm.
but she's jabbing Rose.
Right. Well, she's still hurt.
She's got to take it out somehow.
Mhm.
I like Mickey's line here too. He gave a little bit of advice to the doctor.
Right.
Oh,
Mrs. and the ex get together. Welcome to your worst nightmare.
Also, I don't know if anybody else caught this when they first catch up with Mickey and they find out that he's the one who screamed, and the doctor's like, "That was you," and he's like, "Well, they fell on me, so I had to scream," and he's like a little girl, and to me, it's like he says that very Eccleston-y.
Yes.
He's just-
yes.
Yeah.
Do you scream like a little girl? I mean, I think it was very much. I can hear Christopher
Yeah.
Eccleston's voice when he says that.
He went on for a little bit too, didn't he? Like
Yes.
with pigtails and 9-year-old. Like,
Oh, that reminded me of when Sarah Jane says, now I believe it's you. That reminded me of Eccleston in The End of the World where there's a boom on the satellite
Mhm.
and he's like, now it's...
Oh, now it-
yeah. Yeah, so a little throwback
So
to
did you say
that.
fantastic there, maybe?
Or something like, there it is.
There it is.
It's
Something
not
like that. I think
Doctor
it says
Who
there
until
it
there's
is.
something we need to run
Yeah.
towards or away from.
The doctor says he needs to analyze the oil, and Sarah Jane says she has something in her car that could help. It's K9,
K9!
his old robot dog companion who has stopped working. They all go to a cafe for something to eat while the doctor fixes the dog.
And K9 is almost as awesome as Sarah Jane.
It's another thing for us
It's
classic.
a double whammy. It's K9.
I love the
And the new people on this table are just like, it's a 10 dog.
But I like
it's
the-
K9, come
It's
on.
K9.
but I
Where's
like
the
the
nostalgia
description,
there?
very disco.
Right.
well, Kelsey, I think you pointed out while we were watching it that she just drives around with this broken dog in the back of her car. I mean, that's one of the little plot
That's
holes.
another, yes,
We
I had
still
that.
love the show.
But
It's a
she's
great
investigating
episode,
the school. So,
but it doesn't work.
but
You never
You
You
never
don't know how
know.
long it hasn't. That's the
So,
whole thing. It's like,
well, it might not work, but also it might have something inside of it where she goes, I could use this piece
And I
to
was
build something. Because Sarah Jane's good at that.
And I was going to explain it away that if she's investigating, she's going to bring K9 so that if it's an alien thing that's behind whatever she's investigating, it could be a piece that will fix K9.
Yeah.
That's how I
never had any trouble.
I
with
don't
that.
think it needs an explanation
Yeah,
because it doesn't have one. I mean, we can
But that's-
hand wave as much as we want, but it's still a good show. I still love it,
It
and
needs an
I think it does the
explanation, and
fan
I'll
service.
buy
Yeah,
Eugene's. I think that
Yeah. Also,
helps
too,
going because she doesn't know where she's going, what's going on with the investigation. No matter how trivial it is, it could always be growing into something else.
Mhm.
So pack them up, put them in the car.
But I like a little bit of the dialogue, like where she goes, the doctor's like, you couldn't fix him or something, and then she goes,
Just fix him.
yeah, and he's like, he goes, I can't bring it into the shop, or I can't do this, I can't, and it reminds me of T2. Like if anybody
Right.
got a hold of that, then they would reverse engineer
make
it.
an
and
army
we-
of dogs.
we have a whole different show.
And I love the doctor's immediately like, oh, what your poor lady. Who's your good dog?
Did they talk to the dog? Did they talk to K9 like that in back in the
I
day?
don't remember Baker
No,
talking
I
to the
don't
dog
think
like
so.
that. He was like, he was like good dog, but he wasn't
Right.
like good dog that I remember.
Right.
You know, that I only think, and he also, for some reason, I'm thinking of the chess game with Leela, where K9 was telling Leela which pieces
Moves
to
to make,
move,
yeah.
and the doctor's just like, don't do that. You know, so. The aliens follow them and observe. The doctor and Sarah Jane have a long needed talk about how he just left her behind. After K9 is fixed and analyzes the cooking oil, he determines it to be krilitane oil. The krilitanes are a race of aliens that transfigure themselves by absorbing aspect of other races they conquer. Not Borg-like at all. The cooking oil must be altering the children for some reason that will benefit their race. As they leave the restaurant, Rose asks if the doctor will leave her like he left Sarah Jane. Mr. Finch overhears the doctor saying he is a Time Lord. Another krilitane swoops down at them and then flies off. There's a lot going on
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
I actually have a question for something slightly earlier. So
Sure.
I think it was the earlier conversation he was having with Sarah Jane at first when he says, "I couldn't have come back." Why? Why couldn't he have come back?
No real.
I remember seeing that too, and I felt like it was maybe more of a nod to the show being canceled or something. Like it felt kind of winky.
Mm.
No,
because the show
No?
went on.
I mean,
15 years
I
after.
said
basically.
that. I said that when we were watching it. Yeah. Oh, that's
But
right.
I
Oliver
agree.
was like, "Why couldn't you come back?" I'm like, "Because they canceled the show."
Well, that kind of is answered in this conversation he has with Rose, in that he and Sarah
Right.
Jane were getting too dependent, too close,
Close,
too
yeah.
intimate,
Yeah.
in a different way than Rose is getting. But there still is that when you leave a companion, you don't go back.
Mhm.
It's their life moves on, your life moves on. You don't connect, especially if usually when you regenerate, because you are, as a Time Lord, somewhat different
Yeah.
than you were before. You have some of the same characteristics, but you're still learning who you are. You're new, so a lot of times they don't overlap as
Mhm.
well. Contract is up. She went off and they got a new companion.
Yeah, and
Reality back.
you know, I mean,
behind the scenes.
it is
but-
at this point where he says, "You wither, you
Mhm.
die, I don't."
And see, that part reminds me of Highlander.
Mhm.
I don't know. And then and like that perfectly explains it. Time Lord keeps going on where humans do to eventually die.
Yeah, but when you really care about someone, you would rather take the hurt than seeing someone else suffer. So at this point, he's like, "Oh well, you're attached, but I'm not going to get too attached, so I'll run away. You deal with the pain." That's how I saw the doctor. It was such a selfish thing to do for him to not contact, because if he wanted to look in on her to see if she was okay,
Right.
he could have.
I think too that was more the pre-war doctor, because he flat out said to Rose, "You could stay with me for the rest of your life." So he was planning in that moment.
No,
No.
he wasn't. He says that you could, but I can't spend mine with yours. So I will never get that close to you, because that means that I will suffer when you die.
Maybe
I took it.
Which
I
he's
took it
already
as-
gone through. I mean, he has a granddaughter. You know, he already has gone through some of that. I mean, but that was with another.
companion.
The doctor
Time
also
travel.
wants people to have their own lives too. I don't think the doctor wants someone to live in his shadow their entire life.
And the relationship between he and Sarah Jane wasn't the same that's going on with Rose.
No, it's not.
It wasn't that same romantic. I mean, there was.
No, there wasn't romantic
But they kind of allude to that.
in this episode, but not in their
Not in the
actual
classic.
episodes.
You had something?
Also,
I mean,
too,
she did care. I mean, she wanted to
cared.
stay. She was.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so
oh, yeah,
you
they were
could
friends.
Get that, but
They were friends.
I don't disagree with you. I think you're right. He
Mhm.
is, but that's part of the character.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, and I think that part of this episode in particular is finally exploring
Mhm.
like his relationship with Rose and how he is, he's going to go on to another companion. And for us people who haven't seen the classic, this is kind of our first indication that these companions are also going to
Around,
be revolved or they're going to change. And so as like an exploration of that relationship, I think it's really interesting, especially that conversation at the restaurant
Mhm.
where like, yeah, I'm going to go on to somebody else because I'm going to live forever and you're not. So, but at the same time, I don't think that they're trying to let the doctor off the hook here.
No.
Like he has an emotional debt to pay to Sarah Jane now. And he's going to have one for Rose as we know coming up soon. But yeah, I'm glad that they finally started
Oh,
to
And
delve into that.
yeah, because Davies even said that he wanted Davis wanted to address the fact that the doctor had left Sarah Jane, so that's why he did this.
Mhm.
And they're glad that Elizabeth Sladen was on board to come back.
And when you thought it was Highlander, I see it as Buffy with Buffy and Angel in season
that too.
3,
Anything that's
where
not,
they have
yeah.
to break up knowing that this isn't going to work. And that's something that, we keep saying we see the relationship between the Doctor and Rose growing and becoming more romantic. And when did that start and how is it going? And so now we definitely get a little slap in the face of why the Doctor more hesitant going, I can't do this. This isn't something that is a good relationship for both of us, even though they're both drawn to this. So it is that, as the drama goes, great, where they both want to be together.
Mhm.
But him knowing that, that was just such a great scene, both with him, I thought, the dialogue between him and Sarah Jane, and then him and Rose going, I can't be with you. I can't, it's not possible to share my whole life with you because
You can't.
the timing is
Yeah.
just wrong. I mean, after,
Yeah.
another 70 years, I'm still here.
You're not.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with those things. The only thing is that it kind of alludes back to the whole thing of the doctor thinking that he knows better than you and that he's making decisions for you. And those of you who are in a relationship know that when your significant other starts making decisions for you because they think they know better, it's not a good time. It's like definitely not a good thing. So it's like it has to be, he still doesn't see the companion as an equal ever. And that's what makes me kind of sad about.
But I don't
So
know if he can see a
basically,
companion, 'cause
Rose
they don't have,
is an assistant, not a companion.
Oh,
Ooh.
I like that word mincing.
Well, maybe I kind of rationalize it in my brain that he's an alien, so his views and perceptions of feelings and what's correct and etiquette isn't different. So maybe just leaving Sarah Jane was actually Gallifrey's way of saying I love you.
Right.
Wow.
He spends too much time with humans to not know.
Yeah, I did that.
Well, I think what your point is very consistent though, because even the future doctors, they are not good in a relationship.
Mm-mm.
It's all about fun and adventure, and when things are more real like that, it doesn't work. They're dysfunctional in that way.
Yeah, there's so many things I want to say, but I don't want to break the timeline.
That's what I was thinking too.
what he's
Like,
telling her is the truth, and it's a harsh truth. And they can be companions, just not in that type of relationship.
And it's
I don't think he looks down on them somewhat because they can't be his equal. They are never his equal. He is the Doctor. You need another Time Lord. You need another somebody who has all the experience he has.
but if you ask Rose
But
if
that
she's
doesn't
an
mean that
equal
they're
or not,
But that doesn't mean that they're not valid or important or contributing things. It's not just an assistant handing him the sonic screwdriver when he needs it. It is somebody. She is somebody. Both of them, Rose and Sarah Jane, are important and contribute to his experience and the outcome of what they're doing together. They bring something important to the table. He doesn't want to diminish that, but for them to actually be in that kind of relationship that she would want, he's saying that can't be.
he can't be vulnerable. It's too dangerous.
yeah, it's just like, but I see it more like the doctor's a player and he's
No.
allowed, and because he's honest and upfront about being a player, that it's okay because he's never going to be in a serious committed relationship.
It is a bit of a male fantasy, I think. I mean, the show started in when? The
60s.
60s. So like the idea of traveling the
Are you
world,
yawning or
having
making a
adventures,
face?
getting to meet exotic people. I mean, I think that's definitely a more masculine viewpoint, right? Like it's definitely a product of its time, and it's still a product of its time where like that's kind of a trope in science fiction and fantasy. You can't not say that science fiction fantasy skews towards male dominated stories and like ideals like Captain Kirk or Han Solo. Like those are the stories that often get told. And I think in this case,
I'm sorry.
they're doing good
I'm
at
still
bringing that
the
out.
Doctor's a player. I'm sorry. I can't.
I disagree as well with that. I don't think it's a play. I don't think he went to try and
No, I'm just saying it as an analogy.
Right. But I think that's a harsh word for
maybe more of a serial monogamist.
There you go.
Since we've exhausted that point of topic, Brian?
All I can see is some angry faces. Sorry.
No, I'm still processing.
We will revisit this, I'm sure. The next day, the doctor tells Rose and Sarah Jane to go to the lab and open the computers so he can see the hardware. Mickey is to stay outside with K9 and keep surveillance on the area while the doctor confronts the headmaster. At the school pool, Mr. Finch tells the doctor that they are not enemies, though he will not tell him their plan. The doctor says that they only get one warning. If he does not like what they are doing, he will stop them.
And I thought it was interesting that the headmaster says, we're not enemies. How could you be warning me? Sort of. I can't remember the exact words, but I found that interesting. That it is. I mean, it's being obtuse in the way of like, yeah, you're killing people, so this guy's gonna try to stop you, but they don't see it that way.
Yeah,
that
they're surviving.
If once you continue to watch the show, and then the other points come up, that he doesn't even see the doctor as a threat. He sees him as an opportunity. And then that was a little twist of that the doctor's being the aggressor from that point of view.
Also in this conversation, I think the guy mentions that he took the human form.
Yes.
Like all the time, which makes for some interesting, like, I don't know. I wouldn't call them
human form.
The headmaster.
Right.
Like he doesn't transform into the bat creatures.
He never does?
No.
Oh.
But later on, he'll have some of their weaknesses.
Right.
This is my favorite scene of them.
Yeah,
because this is. I mean, to be honest, for Anthony I don't think this is his best acting. He's very over the top.
That comes later with the faces.
Oh yeah,
right.
Very. But I love the scene in the pool.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, just they're calmly talking to each other, and I love that. By the way, I do want to go back just a little bit earlier because I can read my notes again.
The anger vision has subsided.
Brian's no longer seeing red.
I'm back to TARDIS blue. Happy, Eugene?
Well, that's why when your mouth was open for so long, I literally thought you were yawning. I didn't know if you were actually making a face. And I was like, oh, he's not yawning. Because you were also staring at Arlene.
Arlene broke Brian.
I'm sorry. I'm going to get super feminist on this, so you can go ahead and say
No, it's honestly, I'm not.
Well,
It's one of the, I'm shocked. That's all. Mad? No, please. No, I'm not mad. Well, that's silly. You know, I wouldn't be mad. I am completely shocked by that. I would never in a million years think that statement.
And it also shows how women are, that we are usually our own worst enemy and we're the ones trying to tear each other down.
Yeah, get over
like
it.
when they're arguing, they're like, no, I'm better. No, I'm better. I did this and I did that. So it kind of.
Now, I honestly did want to ask, did that seem real?
As a woman, you're asking me if that seemed real?
If we're gonna go
I mean,
there.
it was a funny scene. It's been done though
Is it?
in television.
Yeah.
Like it's a very common.
But I'm wondering,
trope.
do you guys feel that that's a male author's
point of view
trope? You got two women, make them fight against each other, or does it seem real?
Yeah, that is a I don't really find that, in real life. I don't know.
Well, I work
Like
in a. Go ahead.
Yeah, Or I don't know. I'm
Uh-oh.
trying to think now. I'm
Uh-oh.
like, when I come across another female who does the same thing that I do, like in the job, like I'm not immediately trying to one up or be better
but
than
this
isn't the
her.
job.
This
This
is the
was
job.
a
This is
relationship
the
like
ex
the
and
doctor.
the new.
Right, so that's different. Yeah,
So
I
that-
don't make a habit of hanging out with my current boyfriend's
exactly.
exes. So I
Right.
Oh, yeah, so you have a
haven't
current
found-
boyfriend?
I try to hang out with him.
Yeah, I'll
See,
bring
but
it
that
down.
would
Great.
happen. That would happen.
No, so I see it. It would only be in a work environment. For me, it's like I work in a very male dominant, profession, and when other women come around, they kind of try to one up me. I'm like, you can be it. Go for it. If this makes you happy, be happy. So it does happen at times, but it doesn't necessarily happen like that.
Right. I mean, this was definitely
On
to
purpose.
the extreme.
I get to the extreme.
They
But-
only have a certain amount of time, and it was very funny.
But they
So.
quickly got on each other's side.
Yes,
And
yes.
then
Yeah.
we're against the doctor. And
Right.
We
then-
only have 42 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
long.
No, I found nothing offensive about the scene. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Good.
a friend,
I'm happy
a
about
friend
that.
of mine and I like dated the same guy, and yeah, we started making fun of the things that we both noticed that they did, and that's how we, were
Bonded.
able to bond over the hatred, the mutual
The hatred
hatred
for him.
of
Yeah.
him.
No,
So-
immediately when Mickey says that reference to doctor, the doctor's in for
Mhm.
trouble. Like they may not like each other now, but you just wait, doctor. Soon it's gonna be you that they're not happy with. So
That was one thing I wanted to say earlier. This Mickey finally gets some maybe not
good
revenge,
zingers.
Yeah.
but
something.
But he gets something here where he's just kind of like, I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so.
To Rose and to he
Yeah.
mentions that to Rose, like, look, Rose, he's just like any other guy who's
Yeah.
got like a past.
I believe he
You
says
know,
Yeah,
blow.
you
yeah,
probably
yeah,
have a so-
everything
You're
she's-
not the only one.
Everything she's mad at the doctor for in this episode, she's doing a Mickey.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we
Too
ready?
many X's.
I know.
Yeah.
This should not be school reunion. It should be too many X's. That's the name of this show.
Okay, so Sarah Jane and Rose talk as they work to open one of the computers. They verbally battle over who has had more thrilling and dangerous adventures with the doctor, and then they both laugh at the absurdity of the argument. They bond over the doctor's quirks, and as he walks in, they both start laughing even harder. I love this scene.
Yeah.
I
What?
love this scene.
And I know we were just talking about it, but I wanted to wait till we got through that in the
Mhm.
review because we just had the showdown between the doctor and the headmaster, like the two male leads of this episode.
Yeah.
And we saw how that ended with standoff and that they were, not in agreement, though
Mhm.
one of them thought, like, oh, well, you'll be with me next time. And then the very next scene is this showdown between two women who, start off like against each other in some way, but by the end of it, they're now united.
They find common ground.
Yeah. So I mean, this episode is the episode to have this discussion about because I think, it's very intentionally exploring the relationships between not only like possible lovers, like the doctor and Rose or the doctor and Sarah Jane, but also between, friends of the same gender
Mhm.
or just genders in general, like how they relate to each
Mhm.
other.
The dynamics between.
Yeah.
I like that dichotomy, the two different scenes. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
great. I didn't
great.
even think
Pick
of
up
that.
on
I'm
Yeah,
I
so
love that.
bad at picking up on things like that, so that's why I love this.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, yay, there's symmetry. There's not symmetry.
Yeah.
There's motifs. I'm very bad at picking that stuff up.
Mhm.
And that's why like this, I mean, this could be your favorite episode and I would have no question about it because even though there may be some weird like plot holes or whatever, it's just done so well with like the acting, the characters,
Mhm.
the emotions, to the camera, to the music, like everything really works in this episode and on so many different levels. It was a pleasure to watch.
And I know we've been in some deep stuff for the last couple minutes, so it's time for some really geeky. So when they're trying to one up each other, I've seen zombies, I've seen ghosts.
Is that all
etc.
referring to specifics?
It's all referring to specific episodes. So Sarah refers to meeting mummies, and that's from a Fourth Doctor episode called Pyramid of Mars, which
I've
you
seen that
like.
one.
Not very good.
Oh yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
That's probably like the only one that I've seen.
Yeah. It's a very famous episode.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a really famous episode, and I really don't know why. Lots of robots. So Sarah's seen those in The Time Warrior, Robot, Centauran Experiment, Revenge of the Cybermen, The Android Invasion, and The Five Doctors. She refers to Daleks, which is death to the Daleks, and genesis of the Daleks, which is awesome. Antimatter monsters, which is in Planet of Evil. Dinosaurs in the episode called Invasion of the Dinosaurs. And the Loch Ness Monster in Terror of the Zygons. Oh, the Loch Ness sock puppet monster. But yes, it's the Loch Ness Monster, and they throw things at it from the balcony of some. It looks so bad. It's funny. And then Rose refers to meeting ghosts, which is the Unquiet Dead. Slitheen, which is Aliens of London, World War III. The Dalek Emperor, which is the Parting of the Ways. Gas Mask Zombies, which is The Empty Child. And a werewolf, which is Tooth and Claw. And I like that Sarah Jane wins. Really? Loch Ness Monster.
In the scene before this, when they're about to enter the school, the doctor takes out his Sonic. And
oh yeah, when he's doing the staging of you go here, you go there.
Right.
And he's Rose and Sarah Jane, you go and open up the thing.
And he hands the Sonic to Sarah Jane.
And then at the same moment,
Rose is reaching her hand out to get the Sonic, and it's like, ooh, burn.
And yeah, the doctor doesn't even notice that she's doing that, and she's just left empty-handed.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's like what you
just-
said. She's no longer the number one
Right.
companion. Even the doctor has like
Switched over to who
subconsciously
he has.
compartmentalized
Right.
the 3 helpers that he has
right,
in this
and their
episode.
roles in this.
Yep, and
And if you
Sarah's
asked him
number
about it,
one.
he would be like, "Oh, what's the big deal? I just handed the Sonic to somebody."
Mhm.
You know, like a man.
I'm gonna go home and apologize to my mother.
Knowing that the doctor has discovered them, Mr. Finch proceeds to the final phase of his plan. They gather all the children inside the school and lock it down. The children once again begin to work furiously at their terminals. Kenny still has not been affected and tries to get out of the school. Mickey sees him but doesn't know how to get him out. K9 reminds him that they are in a car. So Mickey drives it through the school doors.
Oh, but you missed the whole Mickey's realization of his role in this.
That was much earlier.
I'm the man in Havana.
He's the
Oh my
tin
God.
dog.
I'm the tin dog.
And
And I found that really funny considering what we were saying before. He started off the whole episode. He's the one that found what the problem, all this stuff. He screams at the rats, and then he actually feels like he's the tin dog. That he's not as important.
Really, he brought them there, and then they just leave him in the car.
Yeah, exactly. With the window rolled down.
And apparently K9 has some weird accent that you came up with.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. I was trying to channel it out, but it came out angry. Like Brian.
Too soon.
This is time travel. Not soon enough.
The doctor is watching a monitor and figures out the Krillitane are using the children like a supercomputer to solve the Scasis paradigm, the secret to controlling the building blocks of the universe. Mr. Filch walks in. Mr. Finch. Yeah, this isn't Harry Potter.
I'm like, there's a Filch.
Different episode. We're at Hogwarts and they're eating chips.
Okay, sorry, I typed that.
He walks in and says, "You kids, give me that map."
Mr. Potter.
Oh, why? How many times did we all read this and not catch that? Mr. Finch walks in and tells the doctor that once the problem is solved, together they can mold the universe any way they like. They could even bring back the Time Lords. And the doctor rejects this plan. So a lot happens here.
Also, in the pool scene, Mr. Finch is telling them his idea of what the Time Lords were, and they were just pompous and
Senator,
stuck in
like-
their own way of doing things and wanting order. You can see how the doctor would be so out of place in that environment.
Right,
He is
not this
such-
Time Lord.
You know, this Time Lord is just a lot more free flowing, so he just doesn't fit in with the regular Time Lord. So you can see that this could be not something a normal Time Lord would consider.
Right.
But him being who he is could consider it, couldn't even go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he would have gone with it?
Actually,
No.
I think the
No.
opposite. I think the aristocrats would look at it as something feasible, whereas he wouldn't, because he's always trying to save the individual.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how it's played by Tennant.
Yeah,
And I
and he
still
does look
think,
like he considers it.
Yeah, Because I'm thinking more along the lines of he would never do it, but he is thinking about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where he's just kind of like, oh no, I'm not going to do that.
Is
because
that
that would be
real
completely.
consideration, or is it just, oh, that's an interesting idea?
Maybe
that's
it's
what-
Plus,
How do
also,
you
I
take
think
it?
maybe it's almost even like, well, should I really destroy them if that is what they're actually trying to do? Maybe they're not trying to do such a bad thing, or should I just destroy them because they've been killing people?
well, but about the offer,
Right.
right? You could bring the Time Lords back, right? And we know as a viewer that would be the wrong thing to do, right?
Mhm.
So I don't think that the Doctor he's not going to do it, but he's thinking about it. But I also think at the same time the emotions coming through where he's thinking, oh my God, here I am again.
Oh,
I'm at
right.
that moment where it's like I could fix things,
Uh-huh.
but I'm again going to choose not to do it,
Right.
not to
He went
save
through his
it.
whole 9th regeneration
Right.
with this problem, with this burden, with this guilt of him doing
With
what he
this
did with the
trauma.
Time War. And this could fix it. And he thought, I don't know, how I see it is, I regenerated. I went through that. I got past that grief process and I came to terms with it. And now it's come again. How many times am I going to have to deal with? Can I fix it? Can I go back? Should I alter time?
I feel like it's more of an introduction of the many times that the Doctor's going to be tempted with being with that much control and having that much power.
Yeah,
So
it's a really
like
good
that,
point.
It's like the introduction to that he's going to be tempted with it over and over and over again because he can, because he is
Yeah.
Yeah.
the last of the Time Lords.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm not mad at you anymore.
Darn.
The whole like plot of what the Krillitanes are doing, and it's the was it the God Maker that they call it or something? It always reminded me of like that's why they need the kids because of the imagination and the creativity. I think that's cool. It reminds me of like biblical text and like suffer the little
That's
children
cool.
unto me and stuff. But then also usually what you have in an episode is that you have a plot A and plot B, and then plot A is like everything that moves the plot forward. Like let's get from here and solve the problem.
Yeah.
And plot B is mostly the character stuff. Plot B is what really comes to the forefront in this episode because you're thinking about the characters, the relationships, and all of this.
And
then,
in that you're looking at plot A as the Krillitane
yeah,
and plot B
Right.
is
Yeah.
Sarah Jane.
yeah, but
Yeah.
really it's the opposite.
Really, it's the opposite.
or
True.
or
Yeah.
like on paper, it's supposed to be the opposite. Is what
Right.
I'm saying.
And plot C is Mickey, I think.
Mhm.
I think this is one
Could
of
be.
his best episodes.
I have Plot C as Kenny. Because it seems
He's being serious though.
Yeah,
We've had this
Yeah,
discussion. Yeah.
Kenny could have taken the place of Sarah Jane if they didn't bring her in. If they had the episode, the storyline A would be the Krillitanes, and this
Uh-huh.
B, because Kenny was throughout the whole show
Mhm.
of
Uh-huh.
not being affected by it, running into the Doctor.
And the
Uh-huh.
aliens
Mhm.
when they're
He
aliens.
sees the alien change
Right,
into
right.
a Doctor, so he knows what's going on.
Teacher.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. He goes to get Mickey, trying to get out, telling him what's going on. He sets off and gets them out of a jam. He sets off the fire alarm. So
Right.
he's the one who saves the Doctor and all of them and gets them out of a jam. So there's like a lot going on with Kenny.
But Kenny is basically us. Since there is no new person. Well, there's Sarah Jane, but
If
still.
they took
like,
Sarah Jane out, I think they would have put
Right.
a lot of that stuff
Right,
into
right,
Kenny.
right.
Focus
even
on Kenny.
more.
Yeah.
That's why I feel he was more of a C storyline
Mhm.
that just got cut and edited out.
God, even Mickey gets bumped by Kenny.
He is the tin dog.
Yeah.
I think they really need Mickey this episode because of the next episode.
Right.
Of course. Yes.
But before you go on, while the Doctor is thinking about this, whether or not he's
Mhm.
actually contemplating or just intrigued by the possibility,
Sure.
Sarah Jane
Yes.
is also tempted to get what her heart's desire, being young, being
Like
what
make
she
the
had
world.
before.
Yeah.
And she comes out with the line, "Pain and loss define us as much as happiness or love." She already knows and gets it. You can't do the deal with the devil. You can't
And
Mhm.
everything
tempt it.
has its time.
Everything has its time and place, and every experience is important, whether or not it's a happy or a sad one. It's part of who you are. You change that, you can change everything.
Yeah.
It's her wisdom that comes through.
And can I just say that, I mean, I know the bad guy is saying this, so I don't know if this is what the writer is thinking, but Vince is so sexist.
Yeah.
Hello, Doctor. Here's what I'm offering you. You can rebuild, you can model the universe as what you want. Oh, and you can be young forever because you're a woman.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's like you just
That
know
I have
Sarah Jane.
always thought that was just like, well, that's a sexist little argument.
I mean,
Oh,
It's
yeah.
something that I think all of us have at some point.
Oh yeah.
You know, we are getting older.
Was
said
she
that
the
to
only
doctor.
one in the room?
I've aged.
Mm-mm.
I've
Rose was
gotten
there.
older. You know, she meets the doctor.
Yeah.
You know, so that's in her already. And so I don't know if he sees it, but it is. That's what you're going for? It's like, no.
Yeah, it was just young, fresh.
Mhm.
It's like, what is this? A 60s beauty commercial? I just
What makes you not like him even more?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I think it goes to his race as well. If the Krilitons are constantly
Oh, yeah.
updating themselves, like that's what
Improving
they do
themselves.
value
Yeah.
is the outer expression of, oh, we got wings now. And I'm sure that they would want, like, part of their reason for doing this is immortality. Did they say that
Well, they
as
want
well?
the doctor's brain is what they want for
Yeah.
this from him.
But I mean, the whole reason that
Did they
of
say more
the
mortality? I mean, they do say they have generations, so they do live and die.
right. So I think
Yeah.
that's also part of
But it
what
could
he
be.
wants is to be a god, to be,
Yeah.
you know, to live forever, have that same thing that the
Mhm.
Time Lords have.
Yeah.
Mickey heads to the computer classroom and pulls the plug literally, shutting down the
That was
computers.
hysterical.
Shutting down the computers.
Yeah, this was good. This was Mickey's episode in a way, but just having him, you know, instead of going in there and smashing,
Smashy,
like,
smashy.
he takes a breath and looks and figures out,
Yeah.
like, oh, everything is on this one circuit instead of, you know, it could have been very easily like start typing buttons or unplugging everything.
Or like an
and-
American shooting the computers.
Right.
And he plays it so well, where he's just kind of like, he shrugs. Oh, well. Okay.
It's like it can't be this simple,
Yeah.
but it is.
Yeah.
But that is great because right before then, when the doctor's telling the people what to do again, Mickey has a great line. What, you want me to hold the coats?
I
And
didn't
then,
catch
no,
that.
go get the kids out.
Yeah.
But then he figures out how to turn off the computer. Where the doctor
He smashes. Yeah.
Yeah,
a chair
with a
and
chair.
a screen. You know, the screen's not actually connected to the hard drive.
I thought that too. Because I didn't remember exactly what happens in the episode, and for a split second, I'm like, please don't let that be the answer to everything. Then he smashed the screen.
After shutting down the computers, he tells the children to run. The doctor deduces that the Krillitanes have altered themselves so much that their own oil is now toxic to them.
Convenient.
He plans to leave K9 behind to shoot the oil barrels, spreading the oil and destroying the Krillitanes. The explosion is much bigger than anticipated, and part of the school blows up. I find it very amazing that they found us, they were able to make us feel for a tin dog.
Oh yeah.
That was great.
No, I
was
actually,
amazing.
I actually got choked up.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And you also have to figure, you know, we're watching it as the doctor's saying goodbye to his old
Friend.
friend.
Yeah.
Mm.
But Tennant never worked with this
No.
prop before. I mean, and Tennant, it really just sells it like we have this history.
And I mean, even the dialogue is great. He's like, good dog,
You-
affirmative.
You good dog. Yeah.
I mean, it's that thing where it's like T2 or I don't know. I just have a soft spot for all robots that sacrifice themselves for their human masters, you know, like old Bob in a black hole or, you know, just anything like that.
Heart beeps.
Heart bleeps.
Bob.
Heart beeps.
And Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent
Vincent and Bob. Oh,
and
yeah.
old Bob.
Yeah.
And then even like Short Circuit, Johnny Five, you know, stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. When you can do that to an inanimate object and give life to it,
Wilson and Castaway.
it's just effective. I think it's cool that they were
Yeah.
able to do that
Yeah. And
I'm not getting
then
any
Sarah
name,
is
am
so
because it's not a robot.
inanimate.
Sarah is so upset, you know.
And she sells it. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like a weird
I
1-2
also like-
punch.
Yes, there's that moment where she's, you know, all the kids are celebrating and Kenny's a hero until the police show up. But, you know, Sarah Jane is really upset and you see the doctor has his arm around her and, you know, he's consoling her. And you do see Rose turn and look. And I think that's like, she gets it. There isn't an ounce of jealousy in that. I don't think. She's just kind of like, wow, that's, you know, she goes to Mickey, you know, and I just kind of like that little bit where, you know, there's just a little beat of, yep, I'm giving Sarah Jane,
Her space and
this is
time.
her space,
Yeah.
you know,
she
she and the
deserved
doctor.
this.
absolutely. And again, it's over a piece of metal. It
Yeah.
just- oh, it's awesome.
Because she's been talking to it for years.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it
like
talked
Wilson.
back.
Like Wilson and
There you go.
Castaway. That was my point.
See?
There was a part when they were fighting in the cafeteria. They were all being attacked by the Krillitanes. That everyone was diving down except for the doctor with the chair fighting. Sarah Jane and Rose at this point would have grabbed a tray, a
Yeah.
chair, a flag,
A
something.
lamp, a vase,
Exactly.
Something to fight back with.
Whatever's in the
immediate
ballroom.
area.
And fought back. They would have fought. They wouldn't have just dived down.
I thought I saw Rose with a chair at one
Also
point
was
in that
Doctor.
It's
scene.
very
It was
quick.
very
it?
quick.
And I was wondering what blew up. Was it the Krillitanes themselves that
Yes.
blew up?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
like that
Ah.
original cafeteria worker.
Yeah.
She does that.
Yeah, but it was just
It's
that.
like throwing vinegar on a Slovene.
But
And it was
in-
just bigger.
incendiary.
Yeah, because there
More-
was like a dozen of them or however many.
and all the
There's
papers.
one shot where they were all coming at the camera. All the
Krillitanes
Krillitons
in the hallway.
in the hallway was great.
Oh, where they're all over the
Yeah.
walls
And
and
you could
stuff.
see
Sort
the
of like
reflection
aliens.
even on
Yeah,
the
they
floor.
did that
That's
really well.
amazing.
Yeah, most of throughout the whole episode, the animation was
Yeah,
always
yeah.
good. The compositing was pretty good mostly, but like that part of the show they put the most effort into, I think.
And before we move on, I just want to say I want a T-shirt that says "Forget the shooty dog thing." Sarah Jane joins the Doctor, Rose, and Mickey in the TARDIS to say goodbye. She turns down the offer to travel with the Doctor again, but Mickey asks if he can come. The Doctor agrees, as does Rose reluctantly, and we'll discuss that.
Begrudgingly.
Sarah Jane and the Doctor leave the TARDIS to say their goodbyes. As the TARDIS vanishes, I'm getting choked up. As the TARDIS vanishes, a newly rebuilt K9 is left behind as a gift for Sarah Jane from her Doctor.
Hooray.
Hooray.
And that is the original model that they use at the end. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, really?
It's from
Yeah.
the 70s.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
they were filming, and because that was an added scene, I don't even think they scripted it that she was going to get K9 at the end. They're just
Oh.
going to leave. And they had the idea to do it, and they called up the guy who supposedly still had it. You know, and it's like, do you still have it like somewhere where you can get it? And he said, yeah. The very next day, they filmed that scene.
So can you get it here in time?
Oh, wait. So the
The guy was in London, I believe, and they were
I
filming in
thought
Wales.
it actually the pieces of it looked different than the beat up one.
No, it is
It
different.
is.
It is different.
It is different.
Oh.
It is newer
It's
because it's
sleeker.
rebuilt.
Right, but you said it was the original from the 70s.
Yeah.
I'm missing. a
Okay,
piece.
okay. So what they did, they got the original one from the 70s at the end, right?
Right,
And then they made one that they used for most of the episode. They
Right.
made that look older.
but it looked like it actually had different pieces on it as
No,
well.
yeah, because it's a different model.
There's different model. K9 has a very convoluted history,
Okay.
and
Surprise.
So
Yeah.
so the
And-
original the first time you see K9, he looks just like he did at the end of this episode, and then through the original series, he changed a little bit.
correct.
Okay, so then when the Doctor fixes him at the end, it's back to square one.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because they needed a model that was clean, and that was a
Yeah.
clean model. So, you know.
So instead of building
and
one,
it's a
they called the
great, a
guy
little
up.
emotional.
No, it's great.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
awesome. It's so awesome. I
Even
just
his
love it.
lines to Sarah Jane before she gets K9, like, my Sarah Jane.
Oh yeah, my Sarah Jane. I'm saying goodbye to my Sarah Jane. Yeah.
I
So
love
then-
that. Sorry, I love that Sarah Jane made him say goodbye.
Yes.
Yes.
He was just going to brush it off.
Right.
No, this time say it.
Yeah.
It was so important, I think.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do too. I agree.
And I think it kind of bookends what you were saying earlier,
Mhm.
Arlene. I think it doesn't mend the whole thing, but it's therapy
Yes.
for
Closure.
it's closure,
Mhm.
putting a button on that. Whereas older shows back in the pre-80s or whatever didn't tend to do that so
Right.
much.
So then we come to the whole scene inside the TARDIS where
Oh right.
it's like it's obvious that Rose and the Doctor have discussed this before they offer to Sarah Jane that she come. They both know,
Well, he even says it. He says
Rose
it was.
prompts him.
the Doctor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
So that's
I'm
my
not sure
point.
they had that conversation. She was
No,
like,
they had a conversation.
No, I think they both know. And he says, "Oh yeah, right." Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
that Rose and the Doctor have briefly discussed it and said, oh, she should come with us. That's a great idea.
I disagree with that. I think it was they're linked. They understand each other, and it's like, ask her. Oh yeah, okay. Hey, do you want him?
Yeah, all right.
So
Okay.
I see it a little more that
Yeah, I
way.
can see it
where-
that way,
where
too.
I can
it
see
was more
both ways.
spontaneous.
Yeah. And so, and Sarah Jane says, "No, I can't go back to this
Life,
again."
Yeah.
And like she says, it's time for me to go on living. And Mickey doesn't, he puts his head down because he knows nobody's going to ask him. Nobody's going to ask him.
Right.
And then he says, "Can I come?" And every time you watch it, I think you get something a little bit more because Frank and I have been discussing it going, does she say no? Does she not want him there? And she doesn't want him there, but does she actively say no? And then with this last time we were watching it, and there is that actual moment behind Mickey's back that Rose turns and mouths no to the doctor. And we just saw that. How many times have we seen this episode? And we
Because we're
just
focused on Mickey a lot of times. We're not,
Yes,
we're
I'm
focused
looking
on
at Mickey.
Rose's-
and I'm not looking at Rose's face.
Well, when did Rose break up with Mickey? Was that in the very
It's kind of
Like,
in the very first
when-
episode. But
in
she
the-
goes back.
It's the
it's
Boomtown.
Boomtown.
it's
She
last
sort
season.
of
Yeah,
she
last
infers
season.
that they're going to spend more time together, but doesn't
Mhm.
happen.
and then that her and Mickey are over?
It's more Mickey that says like, "I'm done
Okay.
with doing this."
I can't
Right.
do this anymore.
Yeah, so they're broken up. So no, Rose doesn't want to travel with her ex, and the doctor. It's almost like that role reversal from earlier, where Mickey was like, "Hey, welcome, doctor. Look, you got your ex and your missus."
Yeah.
And now Rose is in that position where she's now going to be traveling with her ex, and
And they're not even.
well, yeah, but someone she wants to have, someone that she
Right.
feels like she
Yeah.
has a close, intimate relationship with.
Well, it's also her just disregarding me. It's very rude of her to ask Sarah Jane in front of Mickey.
Because Rose doesn't see Mickey as
Right.
a human being.
Right.
Also, Matt, before Mickey did not want to go.
That's
He's
true.
changed.
Yeah,
and
that's the other
grown.
thing too that I think kind of gets forgotten is that in Eccleston season there is that I don't remember which episode, but it is like the doctor asks him to come, Mickey says no. Rose asks him to come,
Mm,
and Mickey says no.
that's true. All right.
They both separately asked him if he wants to come, and he
Right.
says no. And then you get to this episode, and he has changed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
agree
why
with
I
that.
don't see Mickey in the background with his head down so much as, oh, no one's gonna ask me. I think I see as like one, contemplating, arguing with himself, is like, maybe I should go. But I think it's hilarious when he says it. I, as the audience member, also thought that he was asking to go with Sarah Jane, and so I just thought it was a funny
And Sarah
moment
Jane's look.
because
"What?"
everyone's like, huh?
It's a good
and,
twist.
and then he's like, no, it's you.
It's a good twist. I like it. This episode, School Reunion, was nominated for the 2007 Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation Short Form. Back when
Also, like before you move on, I also like the last moments that Sarah Jane has with Rose,
Mhm.
where she's like, and Rose is like, well, what do I do? And Sarah Jane is like, stay with him. Just be aware. Just know what's
Mhm.
something's gonna happen. And then she also says, and if you ever need to, look me up.
And also, she says some things are worth getting your heart broken.
Yes,
Yeah, I like
Did
that.
you-
which is a great line.
I'm sorry, now it just sounds so much like Olaf.
What'd you say?
Oh,
Some
Sound
things
like
are-
Olaf from Frozen.
Oh.
Some people
Some-
are worth
some things are worth melting
melting
for.
for.
I do have a question. Why did the doctor say yes to Mickey?
Because I think Mickey's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because he
I think
he's the one that found the whole thing in the first place, and he's the one that stopped the computers in the end.
he was fine with Mickey coming before when Mickey
Yeah.
said no, and then he asks again, and Mickey says yes.
I think the doctor likes traveling with an entourage.
Yeah.
And I personally like seeing the doctor travel with an entourage, not just one person.
I do
I
too.
agree.
I was going to bring that up. I enjoyed this
Mhm.
episode mostly because of the ensemble cast. It wasn't
Agreed.
just the doctor and Rose. We had Mickey, we had K9, we had Sarah Jane, and it was so much fun. It was awesome.
We'd Kenny.
Like the end of
I
last
like
season with Captain Jack
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Mickey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he did it for Rose, even though she said no. They
No.
just had that
I think
whole
it,
thing of, we can't be together. You left him for me. Bring him along and see what happens.
I don't think.
No, because
I don't think the doctor.
we see Rose ask the doctor, like, Rose, like, no,
But,
don't.
Like Arlene says, the doctor knows better for what's good for you.
I think the doctor likes Mickey.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think he does. I was like, Mickey's
proven
nice.
his-
Bring him over.
Because even when he says Mickey the idiot, he smiles
Yeah,
affectionately
he's like-
about it.
He's like, oh, this is a good kid. Bring
Does
him
this
along.
get-
Then you
call
could
him-
kind of extend it to more as 10th Doctor likes Mickey more than 9th Doctor.
Yeah.
Not that the 9th Doctor didn't like Mickey near the end, but he hated him in the beginning.
Mhm.
Right.
And the 10th Doctor never hated Mickey.
Mm-mm.
Right.
I mean, he sent Mickey to do a job without telling him
Yeah,
how
sure.
to do it.
Yeah,
So that's definitely an air of respect that the Ninth Doctor wouldn't have given him.
exactly. Yeah, I think this Doctor just likes Mickey more.
Mhm.
And Mickey's T-shirt is the same as the next episode, so I think that's cool that they kept that continuity.
Especially not being filmed back to back.
And then when K9 is replaced by a brand new model, I like that Sarah Jane says, "Yeah, he does that."
Yes, I do too.
Oh.
It's a great
Oh,
line.
yeah.
Oh, we also didn't say K9's voiced by the guy who always did K9,
Oh, really?
Oh.
John Leeson.
Who would we recommend school reunion to? A new Who viewer, a casual Who viewer, a Who fan, or a Who diehard? Frank.
I love this episode. I think it's great bringing back some of the classic aspects. I like the way that they shot it, so that it does show a little bit more that it could be for kids, the emotional impact and all the storylines there for the characters, which is more adult. I say everybody. I say a new viewer could really get into this and get some of the information from it, knowing that there's more involved behind, Sarah Jane. You see it from a different point of view than those who have already seen it. But I go for the first category, everybody.
Cool.
You can introduce this to.
Josh.
I agree. Same things. I have nothing more to elaborate.
Cool.
He did it for me.
Arlene.
I agree too.
Yay. Kelsey.
I want to say everyone, but if that includes a completely new Who viewer, I would say no. But I would recommend this to someone who watched the classic series and has never seen the new series. I would like someone like my mom.
Oh, that's great.
Who watched Tom Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Baker was her doctor with Sarah Jane. I would show this to my parents as a way to introduce them to this series because it have a character that they recognize.
Yeah.
And were a fan of. So not everyone.
So a new Who with a caveat.
Subcategory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna, my first time doing this new scale, I'm gonna make a new category. I'm gonna say a classic Who viewer who is new to this reincarnation of the Doctor Who.
And why do you think it's not good for someone who's brand new?
Because like you're introducing a character. There are just too many introductions to characters, and especially to Sarah Jane and K9, who you don't see again.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could be very confusing when they watch another episode. They're like, "Oh, where's Sarah Jane? Oh, where's the dog? Oh, where's Mickey? Why is this just that blonde girl?"
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just there's too much information.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's
But
a good
it would
point,
be
but that's
good.
why I like this for a new viewer, because then they do see that this is something that even when they come into it, no matter when they start, if they start the first episode, it is something that's going to be changing and evolving, and this is what happens to companions. So you have a lot more information going in than you did when you start with Rose.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Alburn.
I agree with Brian and Josh or Frank and Josh and Arlene. It's good for everybody.
Brian hasn't rendered his verdict.
I know. I corrected myself. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
It won't be surprising though.
Yeah, I'm sure that we're in agreement on that.
Cool. Brian.
Diehards only.
And Brian breaks the streak.
No, this is, I would say this is for everyone. This is for a new Who viewer because I've done that. Eugene, what did you think? Did you like Doctor Who after?
Oh, this is just for a fan.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'll explain.
But also, one aspect that I like is if you come into this episode new and you aren't familiar with Sarah Jane or K9 or the show, I do think you get a great overview of the show. I think it's all well done. And then I think if you like Doctor Who and you get into Doctor Who and you watch Doctor Who and then you see more episodes, go back into classic series maybe, see Sarah Jane, learn about Sarah Jane, see what she was like, and then rewatch this episode, I think you would get an entirely new take, an even greater level of, well, like I do, loving this episode. So I would say this is for new Who.
Good. And I would also recommend this for a new Who viewer because when Brian introduced this to me, that second disc on the second season is just a great introduction for anybody wanting to get into this version of Doctor Who.
Yes. Tooth and Claw, School Reunion,
and Girl in the Fireplace.
and Girl in the Fireplace.
And for me, it's the fact that you're introduced to this world with a great continuity, but it's not imploding upon itself. It's just giving you a glimpse of this little thing, but it's still satisfying at the end of the day, even though you don't know who Sarah Jane is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I wish DC Comics were right now. But I won't get on that tangent. But that's what I like about this episode is that you can your curiosity can be piqued a little bit, and then you can go in, or you can not go into what the rest of this series history is.
And the writing on this episode is so good that I think that you may not know who Sarah Jane is, but you know what
she's about.
Yes, very, very fast.
And I mean, they make you feel for a tin dog, so I mean, that's amazing. You've heard our views. What do you think is the main plot of this episode? The Krillitanes' plan to take over the universe? Or is it Sarah Jane re-meeting the Doctor and leaving again? Let us know. Email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us for School Reunion, and we will be back when the future becomes the present.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
You can find his work at
theuniverseexplodes.com.
You can find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoknewpodcast.
All of our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
You can leave comments there or email us at
whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell.
Sydney Newman.
Verity Lambert.
Ron Grainer.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord. Your work continues to inspire and entertain.
So when the Doctor says to Sarah Jane he's had half a dozen regenerations, since Sarah Jane was a regular character as the companion of the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, Sarah Jane appeared in the special The Five Doctors, where she met the fifth Doctor, Peter Davison. So the Doctor has only had 5 regenerations since the last time they met. Although with the release of The Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special, the War Doctor, John Hurt, could be considered the 6th regeneration he was referring to. So it's weird that works out, but the War Doctor wasn't out at the time this episode came out, so it didn't work back then.